Hello and welcome everyone in the audience. It's a pleasure to be here again. First of all, I'm sorry I'm having some internet connection issues, so if the stream lags, please keep on watching, and I hope it will be solved within a few seconds. Today we are three people. We are William, John, and Chris. So welcome everyone, and everyone. We have a registration form. Please drop your links in the view form. It's this one here. We do like five um, five links per day, and just write a little bit about your composition. You see the three fields: name, link, and about your work. And we will have a listen to it. And please provide a timestamp if you have a longer than 3 minute piece. That would be great.
And also, just to remind everybody, it needs to be YouTube. We
Yeah,
have a hard time using SoundCloud or anything like that.
yeah, definitely,
I think
definitely.
I think well we have I already know who these are. I talked to Mario and Steve Summers
Yeah,
and
first of all, let's
Joaquin.
let's take
What
let's
is he
take
not?
let's take the first links
So
from the guys in the audience who dropped it through Twitch, because these are the first messages of them, so they're not familiar with the procedure. First of all, we listen to who is it called? Double concerto excerpts. I will drop the link to the watch together here,
We
guys.
also need yes, there we go.
all right.
If we didn't already mention, Chris, I think we were saying that we were going to ask for score samples as well
Oh yes, yeah.
today because
If you have them,
If
yeah,
you have scores, everybody in the audience, if you have scores, send them to us
if
or send them to me. I know
and
Steve
the
and
and
Martin
the
do.
reason, Johnny, you want to tell them the reason as well?
Well, okay, so Matt Armbruce is a publisher. He's got his own publishing company, and he's looking for things he can sell. So if you send us your scores, he's not here today, but we will send that to him. He'll look them over, and he's already published a few composers so far.
yep,
In fact, he hasn't published me yet, but he's published a couple of you guys.
And
they published me.
Yeah,
yeah,
he's
and
published Chris.
right, and we will be able to perhaps, if there's time today, maybe get devote some of our time to giving some publishing standpoint that might help you. So that's why we're asking for score samples. We can.
Yeah, if you got them, just send them. You guys know me on my Facebook Messenger, so just send them to me, and I'll send them off.
If you're a person who does not write work with written scores, well then disregard.
Okay, okay. And also, I would just say, as a personal thing, if we have a lot of regular composers who are regularly joining us, um, and please make sure, if you are already an experienced composer and you do a lot of stuff, it might not be that useful to you as it would be to someone starting out. So I have seen a lot of links in the last few weeks by regular composers who are already earning money selling us stuff. It might not be that helpful of feedback to them as it would be for a beginner who wants really to learn something. So please have a look and maybe message us the music in private, and we will have a listen and maybe give you feedback for that. But the show should be for new people, for beginners who want to learn about their scores. um
Sure.
yeah, but so far let's just start with the first one by Stephen Summers.
Sorry,
All right.
that was the keyboard.
Okay, that was a great intro, man.
Double concerto.
That was
Okay.
it. That was it. Awesome. I give it an A+.
All right, let's just jump right into it and have a listen. That sounded very interesting. Well done. Great composition. I'm looking forward to hear the feedback of my colleagues.
This is more of a. I think Chris would be better uh, equipped to handle this. I'm just gonna say, the first thing I noticed was the kind of the canonic imitation, almost fugal between the guitar and the piano at first, and then it grew into the more orchestral kind of small chamber work orchestra. I really like how it was like rain. That subject just do 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 do, and then it just jumped back up on a different instrument. It was very nice. But I'll throw it to Chris because he is more versed in this area harmonically. You're
While Chris is getting his mic, I'm going to ask, do we have any background information on this piece?
I
Uh,
was going to ask the same thing.
no, I have not got any background information about
I
this
would
piece.
ask specifically, how is this a concerto to you, and how is it a double concerto? Um, I'm
oh, that's a
guessing
good point.
I'm guessing it's the piano and the guitar, but there's like a guitar and then there's an electric guitar.
Is there
Um,
flute also?
there's flute and there's like vibraphone.
Yeah, is that well vibraphone? Yeah,
That's vibraphone. I mean it's not certainly not a traditional concerto form.
it may. I mean, maybe this just small section didn't have the full orchestra, but yeah, you're correct.
Maybe or maybe not. I mean it is a small section, so that's something that we would possibly need to know. The other thing I think I want to know is I mean there's obviously motives going on, but the vertical stuff feels improvised, which is not a bad thing. Um, I would want to like see the score if it wasn't improvised to see how the ideas are actually fairly simple, but their verticality isn't, which would then mean either you're allowing people to be very rubato, or you're being really like Feldman. I've got to write everything out perfectly, so all the rubato is there. Um, and I think that would make sort of a difference, like how it's performed.
Chris,
I'm also not
we
exactly sure if it's all electronic or some live and some not live.
Chris, we just got some info from Mr. Summers. It says excerpts from double concerto, guitar and piano are the two concerto instruments.
Okay.
2 minutes of sample of approximately 12-minute work that's in progress.
Okay.
So I'm curious if some of the other instruments that we heard, like the vibraphone and the flute, were
It's
maybe kind of
like
like
a
a
concerto.
condensed score
Yeah,
version,
it's like a tiny symphony or
I
tiny
mean,
orchestra.
or maybe like a just a condensed format or condensed version that will later be more fully fleshed out. Maybe something for a larger orchestral type thing, or maybe not. I'm not sure. I don't know
I
based
mean,
on the
one
information that's
can
given.
do one can do a chamber concerto. I mean, there's the famous Berg. There's also Chasson did something that was a concerto for. It was almost this idea. It was concerto for piano, I think trumpet and string quartet or something like that. I don't remember, but that's like one of his main.
It's a weird combination.
So it's totally possible to do that. Um, I guess the biggest thing that hits me is I think the motivic work is really really good. And I can definitely follow the logic, and that's really important to me because a lot of times when things kind of have that haziness, you can't follow the logic because people aren't really using logic, and you definitely are. You're using musical logic. Um, what then starts to confuse me is where the harmonic logic is. Is it just sort of randomly coming up? Because sometimes it almost cadences into a key and then it lurches away from the key into some more atonal stuff and then
Mhm.
cadences back.
I think
And all of
when
that
the
can be done, but you want to really concentrate on building the tension and taking the tension away. So if you're going to cadence into a key, you start before that by maybe more major seconds than minor seconds, maybe more fifths and fourths, things that begin to bring it to kind of a resolution. And when you're building to a climax, you want to be aware of you want to be aware of really how you're working harmonically, because this is so sort of like this that sometimes I'm wondering if I'm understanding the harmony.
Chris, I will also add there was an aleatoric section that I heard toward the end of the excerpt that I really enjoyed, particularly the way that the kind of what we heard built up to that. I don't know if, because the piece sounded like it was also skipping around a little bit, so I'm not quite sure contextually how the piece gets to that point, but I did like it in what I heard, the placement of it. And I like that I could distinguish that between some of the even more atonal bits that you were talking about and some of the earlier bits at the beginning. So definitely just well done. Continue with that in your writing. Um, just making that distinction, or making sure that we understand what it is that you're trying to get at. Things like like the that will help.
Yeah.
Let me say one last thing. When the vibra it was the vibraphone, when all the instruments were coming in together and it started climbing, I really like that. I think that was
It's the auditory section that William was talking about.
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it was nice. It was a nice placement.
Okay, definitely. It was great. It was very interesting to listen, and like he said, it's from a 12-minute work in progress. So I'm looking forward to hear the full
Steve,
version.
send me the score.
I'm also
You
I'm
have
also
me on
definitely interested in hearing the whole piece.
yeah.
Uh,
Send me the score on Messenger. We'll send it to Matt and I'll send it to Will and Chris and everybody and we'll share it in the group.
all right.
All right.
So then we can continue listening to Mario Rosario's music. I have no timestamp, so I would just stay with the first 2.5 to 3 minutes, and let's just jump right into and have a listen. Okay. So definitely great. I would love to hear this played by real orchestra. This sounded a little MIDI-ish, but it's definitely great to get a feeling about how it should sound. Definitely great. I loved how the strings are sometimes in between, and they're just like breathing up and just lifting the piece at some parts upwards. Very great. What do you think, Chris?
I mean, I listened to this morning actually
Ah,
because he
okay,
posted on another thing. Can you play the beginning back for me?
for sure.
Wait a little bit
Yeah,
because I'm checking something.
just tell stop then if you need to.
Wait, is it playing?
Yeah,
I'm not hearing it.
I don't hear it either.
it's long. Now,
Yeah, that's okay. That's all I needed to know.
okay.
All right. So I really like this piece. I think the textures are interesting. I think you need to watch a little bit sometimes on the orchestration. Like when you're doing your tooties, there's too much going on. In this kind of style, which is a good sort of mid 20th century style, um, one of the things that's important in the orchestrations of a lot of the style is that there's two or three things going on and that's it. Copland often when he does it, it's like one line here, and one line there, and then it's just thickened with the instruments. It's not like so many instruments. So the beginning felt a little muddy to me. That also might be that MIDI-ish sound, which I'm not sure. I mean, the sounds themselves are good.
Yeah,
It's more the mix that's the question. Sometimes it sounds like way off in the background. The other thing that I remember feeling when I heard this morning, though, and I listened long. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I listened about halfway, um, which is more than I usually do. So feel good about that. Usually it's like beginning, middle, end, and then if I'm interested, I'll listen to the whole thing or as much as I can. Um, this piece is in B flat, and it does make little excursions away and then comes right back. And one of the things that is true with most classical form is that classical form is about the change of key and the return. And if you're in more of a like modalism or 20th century harmony, which this definitely is with more fourths and things like that, that still sense of I start out in B flat and then I go somewhere else and then I come back. And if this is a third movement and you're doing a rondo, you want here, away, here, away, here, away. If it's sonata form, you want here, away, and wander and wander and wander, and then back here.
Come back.
So what that means is I had too much B flat. By the point we got to right at the end, you had this like little excursion into something else, and I thought, good, he's going to modulate, and then it went right back to B flat. It wasn't enough to be that kind of drama that you might want to look for. So it's something to think about.
Let me add a little bit to that because this is kind of exactly what I was going to say, but also with the theme, it's a and then it tries to go somewhere and then it just collapses back down to B, right? So that's a cool thing because it's like it gets you excited and then it brings you down and it gets you excited and it brings you down. But one thing you want to do is do that and just like Chris said, jump into something new, maybe and bring us to minor or something. Make something big and dramatic through it. But I do actually like how it does all the fugal, all the counterpoint where the voices come in and it builds up and then just it's like a kind of like a little roller coaster. Then it's like, oh, come back down. So
But
it's
don't
something to
do it
think
so
about.
much. Actually, let it go somewhere at some point.
Yeah.
Again, send us a score excerpt if you would. That'll help us, especially as we're talking about publishing. Today's session was going to be geared toward talking a little bit about publishing.
And this is Mario, correct? He has my chat on Messenger. So
Yes, this was
send me,
Mario Rosario.
send me the score. send me the score of the maestoso or the whatever the whole thing, and I'll send it to the group.
All right. So, William, are you going to say something, or did?
Well, I kind of echo what's already been said. I did like the piece. I would say a lot of the things that were mentioned can be useful in terms of just the basic construction of the piece. If you think about it in terms of where are you taking us through the course of the piece, and using a lot of these tools like the motivic development, your harmonic development, your melodic development, all these different things, using these for the purposes of taking us, from point A to B, and just thinking about that in general in our writing can be um, a really helpful way to go. So job well done. Just continue, doing what you're doing, and adhering to what's kind of already been stated.
Let me one last thing, just a little bit of, like, something particular I want to say. When you have like that thing, that little motive, you can just motives are like Legos. You just gotta find a way to stack them together and build something out of them. That's what Beethoven was, the master of that. Uh,
Oh, Bach. That's
find
what
a
Bach does
find,
too.
and Bach, they're both they're absolute stars of the universe when it comes to doing that stuff.
Development. That's part of that umbrella of development.
So find ways, because you're doing great, like fugal work. I don't know, I don't think it's exactly like a Bach fugue, but it is does have counter imitative canonic.
We'd call it a fugato.
Fugato, yeah.
Fugato, yeah.
So you're doing a great job, but try to, instead of just waiting like a measure and then jumping the other voice in, try one time just wait a beat and then jump the voice. Put them closer together. Instead of spacing them like with a formulaic way of spacing them out, try different intervals, like of time intervals, and maybe jump in 2 beats, or maybe jump in a half a beat or something. Just put them all together and build a cathedral. That's all I got to say about motiv. I love motivic development. It's my favorite thing about music. My single favorite thing. It's so interesting as hell. But anyway, that's all I got to say.
All right.
Let's go to the next song.
Let's just jump to the next piece, which is from Joseph Jones. It's Sonata number 2 for violin and piano. We're listening to the last 2 minute 8 to 11. Let's just jump.
Another piece I listened to today.
Oh, holy crap, that's loud. You might need to turn down your speakers a little bit, because that is fucking loud.
Can we adjust that individually, or is that something?
I think you can do that individually. That should work.
But it won't impact anybody else.
I don't think so. Okay, let's just jump right into it and have a listen to Joseph Jones.
Hi, Joseph Jones. We all love you.
Hey, Joseph. Oh.
All right. Well done. I mean, Joseph is a great composer. I cannot say much
Yeah,
about
we
that. He
know
is a
Joseph
great
well.
Well done work. Um,
Also, one of the most prolific composers I know.
Oh gosh,
Just, I'm like,
Mhm.
how'd you do that in 2 days?
he would sit there like, "Rrr," it's like
Yeah.
he's like a construction worker on music. I like the
What?
theme of this. I like how the you know, or what was it like, and then it climbs. That's I like motives and themes I haven't
Mhm.
heard before. I really like that theme how you used it. I the slow section. I'll be honest. I don't know if it worked for me. Maybe kind of add some of those motives in the first section and give it and contrast it with that middle section. But it seemed kind of like it was what do you call that, counter you know not counterproductive, but it kind of broke
Counterintuitive.
the what's that.
Counterintuitive.
No, it was like
Okay.
anyway, it just doesn't work. It just broke the tension. And uh but anyway, I really like that motive. I'll move on to Chris, but that was really cool, those stepwise octaves going up. I've never heard a motive like that, I don't think.
Well, why don't we actually have William go first because I've always been kind of going first.
Okay.
I really like the piece. I'm a big fan of Joseph. I'm a big fan of your work. I've said that several times before. I wanted to actually relate this piece back to the last piece that we listened to and some of Johnny's comments about motivic writing and just development, and even what I said about utilizing the tools that you have at your disposal to take your listener from point A to point B. Joseph, your piece is a perfect example of encapsulating what I was kind of getting at with that statement. Notice how there was a very forward push to get us into from that faster section into the slower section, and then even in the slower section on a slightly smaller scale to get us into the part where we stop the recording. There's a lot of just forward moving, forward momentum, and a lot of that happened through the way that you use the motives and interlock them in a sometimes it was imitative. Sometimes it was, it was all through counterpoint, but sometimes it was imitative. Sometimes it was almost fugal in a way, and then the harmony kind of supported that. Um, and I noticed that there were like incremental changes that were happening harmonically that kind of stepped us slowly but surely to where we were headed in the music. And I thought that was really neat. I would say in the slower section, I think what Johnny might have been kind of experiencing and commenting on, I think might have been I could have used a lot more of what I was just talking about in that section. I don't know, especially since we didn't start the piece from the beginning to get to this point. I don't know contextually what had happened prior to where we started the recording from. So, I can't speak for certain about, even what I just
Sure.
said. But based on what we heard, you could have done a lot more just in that slower section. Motivically, harmonically, there could have been rhythmically some more things going on. It could have been even more dense because and this is really a compliment because you've kind of already set us up with everything that we need to be able to allow yourself to do that. And that's not something that composers can always be able to say. Sometimes we end up going with the less is more approach. Sometimes we end up saying, well, there's too much information in there. But in this case, I think you set us up with everything that we need. All of the pieces, the Lego pieces, as Johnny said, all the pieces were already in place for you to really be able to take us somewhere. So take us there.
Um, so to piggyback on what you're saying with that, I actually have heard this whole piece either yesterday or the day before. I don't remember when. But when Joseph put it up, Joseph is one of those composers. He puts up something, I listen, um, and I listen to the whole thing again. Um, so
I listened to maybe 5 to 10 pieces of his work.
whenever he puts something up, I listen to it because it's always useful and interesting. and he's got a wide range.
Outside of the show, by the way, I've heard more on this show, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I just, if I see him post something in CFN or in Composers or something, I always listen. I love this piece for many of the reasons that both William and Johnny said. It's motivically beautiful. I love the sort of, you almost might call it Hindemithyan harmony. It's always tonal, but there's like a real mind there that puts in spikes at exactly the right times. I think what people are experiencing with the slow part is something that when I wrote my cello sonata, this is what Diamond told me, which is the first thing he said was, how do you balance two unbalanced instruments? And so, I didn't understand what the hell he meant when he first said it. I was
Say
listening.
that again
Right?
one more time for
How
me.
do you balance two unbalanced instruments? And what he was saying basically was the stringed instrument, the way that it makes it sound, is so different than the piano, and you can't treat them completely the same. So to me, what that means is you have these moments where the there's this beautiful lyrical melody in the violin, and then a long held note. The piano cannot do that long held note, and so what happens is you get these places where you're like holding a whole note or a whole note tied over to a half note, and the piano starts to die. And in live performance, that's even going to be more true. Um, and so it's not keeping this sustained tension, it's letting the tension down. So one of the things you might want to think about is how to activate that tension in some of those places. And there's, just like anybody, there's like repeated chords. There's all of the tricks of the 19th century, which you can use in a 20th century context, or you can counterpoint it, or just even simple, just repeat the chords. But something that keeps that sustained tension going, I think, is maybe something you want to think about on that section of the piece. On the other hand, who am I to say? So
Actually, I want to kind of steal this theme and like make a something like that. I like the theme a lot. I think in the middle section, I was going to say, try maybe using the original the that theme and shove it somewhere in there. I think in the middle section, for me, it's just too monodic. It's too just a basic kind of chord, and I don't remember that middle thing, but it was a slow like stepwise thing, and it just kind of meandered. I would like it might work if you throw something from that original section in there.
or some
I
other
love
way
it.
to
I
some
love
other way
that
to
too.
activate it. It just needs some. It just needs some things to keep the tension going because
Right. You can always count on
violin
just
sometimes feels like it's all by itself.
Little bit. I know that we've kind of spent a minute on
I
talking
know.
just about this piece, but I did want to point out that Joseph included kind of like a score excerpt as part of the video
Yes.
in this piece. So I just wanted to point that out. Maybe there's a comment or two we could offer from the standpoint of publishing for Joseph. And I'm not sure, Joseph, if you self-publish or if you're with someone or if that's something that even
I think I sent him
you're
to
interested in
Matt. I
doing.
introduced him to
I
get
will
the
say, Joseph, your engraving is beautiful. I
Yes.
wish I knew how to do that. My engraving is crap. Though Matt does say I'm actually one of the better ones for him. He doesn't have to mess with as much of mine, but I think my engraving is crap. It doesn't look good.
Mm. It looks like
All right,
Sibelius to my eyes, if I'm not mistaken.
All right.
how many more do we got?
Then we keep on to the next one. And by the way, he is self-publishing, working on to figure out how to market. Okay, then we keep up with Dan Buckley. His music.
How
It's
many more do we have?
two people. We can do that.
Okay.
Easy.
Cool.
For sure.
Right.
It's from 240. Okay, let's just jump right into it. It is from Dan Buckley, a choral version. All right. What's up? 240.
Oh, is it playing? Is that I don't.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. I don't hear it.
Yeah, we need to do something. It's barely audible.
Yeah, I think I hear from you what's coming through on your microphone, Giannis, but I don't hear it
I'm
on
listening
my
to it on
end.
Twitch, so I can hear it.
So
Sorry.
you guys are in the watch together, right?
Yes, but it's
Okay.
So
not.
sorry, Dan.
Have you
It
have
looks
you
like we
have you
stuck up.
raised your volumes from the track before?
I didn't do anything to the track before.
Ah,
Right.
okay.
No, it was
Volume.
yeah. The last couple videos have been playing fine. This one's not playing for some reason.
Okay. Well, okay. Okay. Uh, we could also quickly just tune into this. Wait a second.
I heard it so far. It's quite lovely.
So we're gonna play this one back from the beginning. Just
Yeah, it's not playing it right now. You can join me here and listen to the. Listen to. You cannot copy it, and you cannot click on it. But there you can join on Twitch.
Maybe just turn yours up if that's only way we can hear it.
Well, okay, I will. So there we go. I hope that was at least a little bit possible and it worked, that you could hear it.
Yeah.
Well done. Let me
Yeah.
say, Dan, you are very, very great at programming your music. Um, well done. Great cello sound. Great,
This
great,
is this
good
all
basses.
digital?
Oh,
yes,
for sure, for sure.
Good.
yes,
nice.
absolutely.
Nerds. It sounds good.
That sounds awesome.
The
Well
choir
done.
is amazing, actually. It's a very good choir.
Yeah.
Yes, the choir
I have
sounds
some
real.
questions
What?
about that choir
What's the
sound
choir?
later.
Choir plugin name. Plugin name. Plugin name.
It looks like
What's the
it
plugin
sounds like
name of your choir, Dan?
well, it sounded to me like either Spitfire or East West Word Builder.
Tell
But
us.
to my ears,
Let me say the
It's
counterpoint.
East
The
West.
whole
It's
thing-
East West. Does Spitfire have a word builder? They have this Eric Whittaker choir, but has a word builder? No, Spitfire doesn't.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I know East West Word Builder, and that sounded
Yeah,
like
yeah.
West Word
East
Builder.
West, obviously, but I'm actually very deep into Spitfire, and I was a bit confused because I know the Spitfire plugins, and I was like, what, a word builder? That would be.
He says Hollywood choir. He thinks
Hollywood.
it's Hollywood choir.
Okay,
Great.
okay.
There is a little Hollywood quality to it, yeah.
Yeah, but
Because,
definitely
yeah,
well
and
done.
yes, there
Well
was-
done.
There was a word builder. But the chorus is all vowels, no specific words. Oh, okay. So it's
Got it.
oohs and ahs.
So can I go ahead and get mine out of the way?
Yeah, for sure. Go.
Yeah.
Okay, so okay. All right, I'm going to talk from the standpoint of hearing this live in a concert hall someday, one day, hopefully, maybe. Um, you want to give some real thought and consideration to how this would work practically from a practicality standpoint with an actual choir slash orchestra. There were certain moments where I literally heard the flute part just as loud as, or if not louder than, an entire section of French horns. There was and brassy sounding horns
Oh.
at that.
It
That's
was
not
loud.
going to happen in real life.
It was loud.
You and so this is one of the things that people who work specifically with sequencing or working with pre-recorded instruments in this kind of setting, one of the things that you have to keep in mind is that one of these days you're going to want somebody to play this piece for real in a concert hall or in a live setting. And so you need to be thinking, if you're not already thinking about this, you need to already be thinking about, um, how are we going to make this, how are we going to transfer this from an acoustical to actual realistic live, experience. And so that things
Le-
just comes to mind.
let me sorry for that, but let me quickly interrupt. First, he has written that he was trying to make the flute sound like a solo. That's the first thing. And
Okay.
the second thing,
Orchestrational.
yeah.
Oh, okay, go ahead. I'll
Okay,
speak on each one individually, but go ahead.
okay, thank you.
I know
Yeah,
what you're
and
gonna say too.
definitely, William is right, Dan. Technically, if you have like a flute, let's say it plays forte, it is quieter than you have a brass playing forte. Definitely, you will have trouble if it's a flute, if it's a solo. You will have trouble to make it audible if you have like brasses playing all over the way. Um,
All the string section.
Exactly. I think that might work if you have like a mixing engineer and everything mic'd up, and he can just turn down everything else, and you have a big audience and they play like quiet. But in a natural setting, it's like put the musicians on the stage and just play. It will be difficult. So definitely.
To change my comment based on what you just said, Johannes. And I might need your help on this because you probably know more about this world than I ever could. But think about this in your sequencing, where each of those velocity numbers, when it comes to the volume of each of the MIDI note pieces of information, attach. And if you don't, uh, even if you don't, remember that when it comes to pre-recorded instruments in a library, somebody already has taken the time to assign a dynamic, to each of those different settings. So you've got like 1 to 127,
Yeah.
right? So from like 0 1 to like 20, that might be pianissimo.
Yeah.
From like 21 to like 40, that might be
Right.
pianissimo to piano, and then you get into your mezzos and then your forte.
So you're
So
saying adjust every single individual note with the scale, with the
The
one.
thing
yeah,
is,
that's
the
what.
thing is actually there is a plugin company out there who does program their overlay that if you're changing the mod wheel and the expression wheel and you are sliding through the dynamics, it will show you how it would be on a real instrument. So if you're going for
That's
like,
that's awesome right there. Like it just gives you what basically happens in a
it
real
is made
orchestra.
for the
Volume.
composers who have trouble identifying what dynamic their instrument is playing, and it's
Right.
easy for them to go, okay, I programmed my oboe that it sounds this loud, and now what kind of dynamic is that? I personally don't have this plugin, so I cheat my way through and just open up Note Performer, and I'm like, when do I have the same loudness? And I'm like, okay, what does Note
That's
Performer
how I.
tells me what dynamic is that, and what is it in my DAW? If that's matching, that's the way I do it.
That's
I,
cool.
I,
That is really cool.
I have one other comment on that flute thing, which is it's not just enough to do it by dynamics. You have to do it by texture as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um, like if you want a flute solo, you should have one horn, maybe two horns at the most, playing
And not
Technically,
brassy.
solo is
Not
that's
brassy and
not
low
brassy.
in their register, not high in their register. Watch that for You might not want the strings playing strings. You might want them playing pizzicato or something else to lighten the texture.
Mm.
Uh,
Maybe replace that instead of, like, if you want have 8 of your horns playing at
right.
fortissimo with that brassy sound, when we know that's not going to work with a solo flute, right? So maybe replace that. Consider replacing that with maybe cello
Right.
and viola divisi on that chorded,
Right.
or playing at a nice mezzo volume or something like that, and then the flute can sit on. That's a more realistic thing that you're
Yeah,
going to,
some
but at least doing the work to
space.
consider in your mind what this might take in order to pull off on a real stage with people
Yeah.
at some point will be helpful.
Honestly, even in the MIDI, it doesn't quite work because the flute's way louder than it would ever be natural.
Right. Yeah, that
Almost
right.
hurt my
So
ears a little.
yeah, so we know by listening to this, manually change not the MIDI volume, because the MIDI will give you that information as well. Like I said, just knowing that number is assigned to a certain dynamic is already helpful right there.
Well,
But we know,
sorry, your microphone is just crackling like crazy, and
Popping
I
is it
can't
really bad, yeah.
half the words you're
my?
saying.
I am sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so somebody else. I'll come back.
I would like,
I'll get myself
I'd
together.
like to jump in a little bit on the structure of the piece. I think it's a really well done piece. You obviously are, you're doing some interesting things with the choir, sort of Mozarty or early Beethoven. But I would suggest listening more strongly to Mozart and early Beethoven, because what sort of ended up happening with it is the entire thing. It's going to be the same thing I said earlier. It's in one key, and it needs
Yes,
to
exactly. That's what I was going to say
needs,
too.
it
It's
needs to modulate,
yeah.
and this is how it needs to modulate. It
Well,
it's in 4 bar phrase, 4 bar phrase, 8 bar phrase. It's in very strict 4 bar phrases, and what you need to do with one of those phrases is extend it through development, extend it through modulation, so that I got to the point at the end where I was like, I know this is going to happen. Then that flute's going to come in. Then the choir's going to come in. Then the flute's going to come in, and it hasn't gone anywhere. It's just been repeating those two things. This is not an unusual thing for newer composers to not understand. Um, it took me a long time to understand it. Like when I do a sonata, I was writing full melodies and realizing Beethoven never does that. Um, Beethoven will write 2 periods of a melody, and then the second 2 periods start to develop already. Um, Mozart might actually do more full periods, but Haydn doesn't either. So there's a lot of we often miss it because our ears are tuned to the thing that's the stronger melody, and we miss what the actual composer does with it. So my suggestion is get a score of the Mozart Requiem,
Requiem.
get a
Yeah.
score of the Beethoven Missa Solemnis, get a score of the Lord Nelson Mass by Haydn. Look at them, watch exactly how those phrases work, and then start pushing yourself in the same direction.
I would say, well, kind of building on what Chris said, you are. It's just keep going. It was in D minor, I think. You just keep. Well, that's the same key that the Requiem is in. Mozart's Requiem is. Uh, you even for a section, if this is just an opening section, and then you're going to go to a big development section, that's still way too much D minor. You have B flat. You can go to the dominant A, or you can do something. Get out of that habit of just going straight back to D minor. Because
You can add some
counterpoint,
secondary dominants that immediately take you to into another key for a
exactly.
minute, and then come back. Things like that. That's what the greats do. They don't just give you diatonic chords in D minor and then just stay in the diatonic chords in D minor.
Your
They don't do that.
counterpoint, your counterpoint and your melodies are actually really good. It, it's you have to learn how to use the voice leading to go to something else. Like Chris said, something secondary dominance. Throw a chromatic in there and then outline another harmony and venture through that for a minute and then maybe come back to D minor and then use another like chromatic of a different scale and go to the remote keys or not the remote keys, the relative keys like A major or B flat or even the major. You could A D major at one point.
Schubert
Do not
does that.
sit, huh?
That's a hallmark of Schubert. Go
Right.
to the parallel major.
Yep, all the time.
Right.
Just don't sit in the key for 5 minutes. People will get bored, even though you're counterpoint. And don't take this as the wrong way because you're counterpoint. You know how to write music. You need to learn how to venture off harmonically and get out of that safe space. Go to something.
How to structure music. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Let's let William finish his thought now that he seems to be working again.
Is it working? I mean, does it sound any
yeah,
better at
Yeah,
all?
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
definitely
all right.
better.
And I apologize for that because I was kind of like on a roll, and I was like, oh no, they
Yeah,
can't
you
hear me.
really were.
Yeah, no. But I love the piece. I love the way it sounds, and this is like that issue because it's like, okay, I love the way it sounds, but you're kind of like in your own little sandbox when you're working like in sequencing because you can create these entire soundscapes that will only and can only ever exist in a digital place. It will never exist in the same format in a realistic platform like a stage with a real audience and a real orchestra because how are you going to achieve that same sound? That's the question that you want to at least ask yourself. And it's never too early to begin asking that question because it will invariably lead to you thinking about orchestration, thinking about the tessiture of the instruments and voice, I should add, because there was some interesting things happening with the sopranos and altos
Yeah.
that I think if you put this in front of some singers, they will immediately tell you, do this, do more of this, don't do this, or this at all.
Or
And
they
they
will
will
tell you they hate you.
or they I was about to say that, or they'll tell you they hate you. But just being mindful of this, I guess we can call it a dichotomy between what goes in a live setting with real people and real listeners and what happens in a computer digital space and finding the link between those two things will be helpful to I think everybody on this call.
And I would also say that if you do those things and lighten the texture, your MIDI is going to sound better too.
yeah.
All right, let's just jump to the last one, guys. We have the last one. It's a short piece. It's a short piece, but it's from Donato. So let's have a listen to it's action battle mood. Okay, maybe it's a film score piece, but I think it's definitely
Oh
an
yeah.
epic piece.
Uh-huh.
Let's just jump right into it and so have a listen. So, well done. First of all, great use of damage too for the percussion and for the toms and the taikos. Um, it's a great track. It's well mixed, but there's one thing I instantly noticed. There's usually you have either a score mix or you have an audio mix, and if you mix both together, it is not working. Um, if you're showcasing the track what you've written, so the people are focusing on your music, you need to turn down the action sound effects and bring the music up and take care of a great music mix. I felt that there's the brasses are not bright enough. They could have more shimmer and they could be brighter, that you can hear the horns are doing their magic. The strings could be more, a little more being mixed aggressive, that they peek through the mix and you can hear the action, especially the strings doing the runs and doing their ostinatos all the time. They could be a bit more aggressive. But the mix itself is great. This, what you have done, would be used in the actual film, because you have all the action effects, the sound effects, and then your score needs to it needs to have less high frequencies, that you can hear the sound effects on top of it, because the hierarchy is sound effects, actually actors, sound effects, and then the music. And for the actual film score mix, the music would be perfectly, but it would be quieter. It just felt like the music was either too loud for the film or too quiet for the music. So it depends on what you're listening to. But it was definitely written very well, and it for an audio mix, it could be mixed a little bit better. But you have to have that vision. For the film itself, it worked perfectly, but it was a little bit too loud. Either how you see it, but well done writing. The sounds are great. It worked with the picture. This is also very important. Well done, great job.
Nice.
Cool.
I
Go ahead.
I just want to say the one thing I would say is you have this, and you use that every single section uses it, and I think maybe I'm not. Johannes is the film score guy, but for me, I would maybe when there's big, like when they collide together, they smash together and they're fighting. Maybe put like something that sounds like an explosion in it or something, and add on top of that. It was a
Sometimes what you do is to not stay all the time in the same notes repeated all the time. You go for a little rise. You go either for the
Right.
for the subdominant, you go for the dominant, and you just lift the ostinato up a little bit, so you make it more tense. But you're right, definitely, John. You could hear it all the time on the left side doing all the ostinato. I was at the same point for a documentary when I did it, but I did it just like for the audible for the first few seconds, and I was like, okay, I mix it down because I don't feel that I should change it. It works perfectly, but I know that people would hear it for 60 seconds straight, and this is way too much. So you need to bring something else into it so that you don't have the focus all the time on the same ostinato ongoing.
Johannes will be teaching some film score classes soon with us. With our, we'll mention that in a minute, but uh, he's the guy to go to. So anyway, that was my point. Go
Nice.
ahead. I'm sorry, William.
So real quick, I'm gonna get myself out of the way quickly. I'm just gonna talk from the standpoint of a composer who happens to be a movie lover. I was there in the theater for the both of the Avengers war movies, Infinity War and Endgame, and I can speak from the standpoint of this scene in particular when I say that if you're gonna choose to do this scene and score this scene, it will help everybody immensely for you to be aware of the context of where we are emotionally in this scene. It's not just action, especially notice how you put action slash battle mood. The mood of this particular scene is tinged. Yeah, it is action and battle, but it's the emotional stakes are a little bit elevated in this scene. If you remember back to what Thanos was all about, what he represented, then you'll remember that this scene there were the stakes were very very high, and emotionally we're very much invested in what is happening to each of these people that are on the screen. And so that you want your action and your music to reflect that in some sort of way. Find some way to bring out the tension of what's going on and what's happening and the suspense that comes along with that. Maybe some what do you call it, minor
Yeah.
second,
Reminds me-
intervals. Maybe, maybe some seventh chords, maybe some
Some
added ninths. Some dissonance in there. Alan Silvestri was amazing at finding the right moment to invest some, and it's not experimental in the grand scheme of music making, but it's experimental in this in from the standpoint of just kind of playing with the form of what we expect within the music a little bit, and he found these really great emotional moments that happened within the film to place these. And it wasn't just this movie where he did this. There are a couple of scenes in the Back to the Future movies where he did that as well. Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and even Castaway, where he just had found very specific moments to just to kind of uh, um, put just some very specific musical things in there that just heightened the level of emotion where it's already heightened, but that just takes it to a whole nother level. You could have done that in this piece, and I felt like you didn't. The action sounded very much kind of generic. That would work in a scene that's not Thanos related. If we weren't talking Thanos, then I could kind of go with you on that. But because this scene in particular, it needs something that I didn't really get that you could have put in there. And that's all I'll say.
Good.
That was
Good
going to be
good.
that was going to be very close to what I was going to say too. Um, I think this is a really good generic battle sequence. What I think as a young stepping out composer that you need to ask yourself is, if you're really wanting to score this kind of movie, what can you bring to the table that everyone else can't bring to the table? Because that's sort of what I'm feeling right now. Like, I've heard this a lot of times, and it's well done. It's not, but it's not particularly different than what they're already giving. And that actually can help you too, because for some film scoring, people are just going to want, they'll be like, I want, I don't know, I want Hans Zimmer right now. And then you have to be able to know how to do Hans Zimmer, and you have to be, or I want something just like the battle sequence in Spider-Man, and you have to be able to know how to do that. But when the moment comes and you want to become one of those people that they say, I want to write something just like you need to figure out how to make that mark yourself, because there is room for that creativity and originality in film scores.
Yeah.
Not as much as there used to be.
True.
That's what William said is right. There's too much consonance. There's too much traditional triadic harmony and consonance and chord progressions. You need more, maybe not that, but something jarring a
I'm
couple
a
times.
huge fan right now of the Rings of Power series. I know everybody loves to hate on it, but I love it. And I'm a Tolkien freak, and it doesn't bother me that they're doing all the stuff they're doing. That's what should happen in a thing that's only sketched out. But Bear McCreary is the guy who's doing the film score for it, and it's really, really good. The battle sequences this last episode, they had all of this wonderful tension every time the orcs came in. It didn't just go to the minor, but it went to the minor crunchy. And I've loved him since he did Battlestar Galactica. He's a really, really great film score composer. So listen to him. Listen to Michael
Giacchino.
Yeah, Giacchino. He's brilliant. His Lost film score is like really heartrending one moment, and the next moment it's Penderecki. It's brilliant. So listen to some of those film scores and try to figure out how you can distinguish yourself.
I think one of the most versatile composers I ever heard is John Powell.
Yeah.
Who is actually sometimes I wonder if I listen to some animated series music or whatever, and I think it's so hard to do that, especially in this comedy genre. I was watching Mr. Bean a few days ago, and I just saw that John Powell was doing the music for that, and it's unbelievable how important it is to be able to use the musical instruments for that comedy style. And John Powell also did a lot of action movies and dramas and thrillers and whatever, so he's a very
How to Train Your Dragon.
Exactly, How to Train Your Dragon.
I don't know none of this stuff.
I'm
don't know.
I have watched at the end of credits since I was like 8.
Oh,
I would sit there and wait till they said who did the music.
Yeah.
it's your best favorite part of the movie.
Well, absolutely, especially if it was a good movie and good film score.
Yes.
True.
I also looked at the Twilight Zones and I was like, who wrote that? Who wrote that? All right, we got to run.
I
But
think we're done. I got a lesson at 4:30. Wish me luck. I'll talk to you in a minute, Chris, because I gotta.
I am actually going to have to run real quick, so it has to be
Okay.
because I got a gig.
All right.
But
Cool.
Johnny brought up a lesson. We just want to make sure people know we are busy hatching the idea of a CFN school, like a comprehensive school. If you want to learn the stuff that Johannes does, if you want to learn digital workstations, if you want to learn film scoring. For me, I'm currently working on a basic jazz harmony course, which I would highly recommend composers do. Unless you're like really 19th century, I would highly recommend any modern composer take jazz harmony. It's way more useful. Um, Johnny is doing a beginning sort of music theory. William, I think you're going to be doing something on orchestration. Is that it? Or
Orchestration, among some other things. I might touch on some of these other areas as well, like theory and
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So
Well,
we're busy working on this. We will talk to you more in the coming weeks about it. We're hoping to
it'll be exciting. I think.
open it up soon. I don't want to say exactly when because it's a lot of work.
There's a, let me say, if you're interested in the school, there's this like pay as you go kind of option. You can pay for like the whole beginning course because you want to learn it all. But if there's like a specific topic you want to know, maybe come to us, say I want to learn this, and then we can probably grab some people on Facebook who also want to learn it and put a Zoom class just in that one topic. I was thinking that was a good idea because we can have the basic courses and do them regularly. And something like atonal, if somebody wants to learn about atonal, that's not something that 1,000 students are going to come learn. You can gather up a few and get
But you
one class
probably should
together.
know some other stuff before you get to atonal.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're past all the traditional harmony and you know all that, and you want to learn like 12 tone or doing a row or series or something, a tone row or
Out there
something.
who knows spectralism and wants to do a course on spectralism, I would take it because I know nothing.
Oh, okay.
Me too.
Who is that?
Spectralism,
Who?
spectralism. If somebody
That's my response as
Oh.
well, Johnny. Wait, who?
It's-
What?
Okay, somebody knows.
new complexity, all of that stuff. I left during the new romantic age of the 1980s, and I don't know anything afterwards that's become big.
Okay. All right, you guys. I think I'm gonna jump off and get ready for this lesson. And it was a great show.
All
Thank
right,
you, everybody, for coming.
everyone.
I'm so glad you guys came.
Everyone, thanks for watching. Everyone in the audience, thanks for watching. If you're interested in learning more about the CFN school or staying updated or something else, in the under the video there is a banner which is called Facebook. If you click on it, you can come to the CFN group and you can join this group, and you will be
They're usually
updated.
all
And there's this live stream will be transferred to the group as well. And yeah, if you have then questions or something, feel free to use the CFN
One
group,
more
and we
thing,
are happy to
let me say
help.
one more thing. Everybody out in the audience, I think we got 6 people here. If you go tell, try to do us a little favor and go tell everybody you know about this show. Anybody, at least get like another. If you have a friend who's a composer and they want their music heard or analyzed or something, some feedback, tell them about this show. We got it every Sunday at 2:30.
Exactly. We are actually regularly here every Sunday or every second Sunday. We are here. We'll keep you updated through the CFN group. So everyone, please make sure to join the group. It's for free, and you'll get any news, and you'll be able to share your music to get feedback.
And follow Johannes on Twitch, please. Get it.
That
we're
would
trying to
work
get
as
him
well,
to-
so you get notified when I start the stream. Yeah, definitely.
Give us just a follow. We're trying to get up to 1,000 for
Yeah,
Johannes.
that would be fine.
All right, folks.
All right, you guys.
All right.
Love y'all.
All right, guys.
Wonderful
Great session.
show.
Great music.
Great music.
Bye.
Well done. Take care, and we will see us in next week or in 2 weeks.
Don't go yet.
Me?
Yeah, you said you
Oh.
wanted to know how to record.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so
I'll show you real quick.
take care.